Is Arceus still the strongest Pokemon lore-wise? We're not talking about competitive-wise because I can see some of you typing already. Well, clearly not. Competitive-wise, it is not the strongest. Yes, Mega Rayquaza was the very first Pokemon that people can think of when it comes to who is stronger. There's also Mewtwo, played the doggos before they got nerfed, and as well as some of the legendaries in Scarlet and Violet. We're talking about the past and the future legendaries specifically. Now, with all that out of the way, lore-wise, is it the strongest? Is it still considered the PokéGod of the Pokemon universe and perhaps the multiverse? It's a debate that has been talked about since Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And you can already guess who I'm talking about. This debate actually is between Arceus and Ultra Necrozma from that game I just mentioned. If we go back to the main topic of why Arceus has been in this debate, is because Arceus is perceived as a PokéGod. In fact, its own Pokédex entry, simply states it is said to have emerged from an egg in a place where there was nothing, then shaped the world. There's another expert that says that it is described in mythology as the Pokemon that shaped the universe with its 1,000 arms. It eventually fell asleep, after creating the universe and creating the Pokemon of time, space, and eventually antimatter, or who knows if he created it all at the same time. One of them did get banished eventually. So why is it a debate about whether this PokéGod can be defeated or is contested with another Pokemon known as Ultra Necrozma? Well, Ultra Necrozma is a different Pokemon, and this debate actually originated from a lot of forums out there, and especially from a popular, or two popular YouTubers that did a pretty popular collaboration. One of the names being Terminal Montage and Noggin. I actually have videos for these guys talking about and showcasing a pretty cool animation of the Legendaries battle and what makes Necrozma a contestant against Arceus. Guys, check it out. I have actually 3 videos instead of 2, so you guys can understand why I'm talking about this. I bring up Arceus not because it's essentially the creator of the universe, but is also perceived as quote-unquote light. There's actually a separate Pokédex entry, and while this was mentioned before the game Pokemon Legends Arceus, in this Pokédex entry, or whatever we call this, said here, it is the heavenly fount from which pours the light that shines across Hisui. Its luminance guides and protects all Pokemon. Hisuian mythology states that Arceus is the creator of all things. Looking at this entry, you notice how it keeps mentioning light or something along those lines of light. It says that light that shines across Hisui and then luminance, so on and so forth. There's a big, I guess, metaphor description of Arceus being a Pokemon of light. There's Necrozma. In one of his Pokédex entries, it says something along the lines of, if it doesn't consume light, it will stay frozen. In fact, if we look over here, light is the source of its energy. If it isn't devouring light, impurities build up in it and on it, and Necrozma darkens and stops moving. If you look at the regular form of Necrozma, it's pretty dark. It's not having enough light. If you look at its ultimate form, the Ultra form of Necrozma, aka Ultra Necrozma, you can see this. This is its form when it has absorbed overwhelming light energy. It fires laser beams from all over its body. And in another description, similar to that of Arceus, light pouring out from all over its body affects living things in nature, impacting them in various ways. It has overwhelming light when it becomes Ultra Necrozma. With Necrozma, it needs light to become this ultra powerful being, this ultra powerful Pokemon. In terms of competitive-wise, its stats are no joke. It's a lot stronger than Arceus, without a doubt. But in lore-wise, it's really stronger. Legends Arceus. When you're able to defeat Arceus, you gain a plate known as the Legends Plate. Now, obviously, in previous games, Arceus can only hold one plate, and essentially you still have a chance to beat him. But what if he has all the plates? What if he has the Legends Plates? For people who don't know, the Legends Plates changes the typing depending on what attack Arceus uses, and can also change the type to essentially fend off against any typing that might, defeat it. And of course, being with Ultra Necrozma, Psychic, and Dragon, Arceus can simply switch to a Dark type to fend off against any Dark type, Psychic type moves, or it could switch into a Fairy type to fend off any Dragon type move. But there are other typings that are essentially not immune to any typing out there, and hence Ultra Necrozma can specifically just use any other move and take out Arceus. Simple as that. In fact, all it needs is Solgaleo, Lunala, faces off against Arceus and potentially have a chance to defeat Arceus. Sounds crazy, and it sounds like, yeah, a 50-50 chance that one Pokemon might defeat the other. Sure, Arceus could win and become the PokéGod. No one can stop it, but at the other hand, all it takes is just one touch from Necrozma, and that's it. Necrozma, potentially the PokéGod. At that point, Arceus is just a joke. It's not really a PokéGod, and it has been a debate several times. Is Arceus really a PokéGod, or is it just one of those regular Pokemons out there? And that's just a debate. It's a battle between light and darkness, or in this case, I guess you can say light and light. Who is the victor? Arceus would win the battle against Necrozma 100-0. It could be partially a theory on my end, and I'll explain why. The battle will go extremely in favor, in fact, just towards Arceus at all. No chance for Necrozma, because Arceus is not even trying. Arceus was never trying at all. You look at Arceus and you think, wow, the PokéGod has the Legends plate. Bam! Powerful god right there. And I say, yeah, it's a powerful Pokemon, powerful god right there, but in reality, Arceus is only using probably 0.1% of its power. Maybe even less than that. It's very interesting, and let me explain why. Since the 4th generation, since Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, I already explained that Arceus created the universe with its 1,000 arms, and I want you to keep that in mind, with its 1,000 arms. Don't you find it strange that Arceus has been appearing multiple times in different video games? We can essentially ignore certain types of events and whatnot, such as Pokemon Black and White, where you are essentially given an Arceus. It's a gimme to you. In fact, in Black and White, or in Black 2, White 2, you're able to get an Arceus simply by catching it, a 100% catch rate, and it's your Pokemon. That's about it. You got an Arceus. Big whoop. But let's look at some of the other moments where you're able to get an Arceus. And Diamond Pearl, or Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. Let's start with Diamond and Pearl. Diamond and Pearl, you somehow obtain an Azure Flute, and you're able to use it at Mount Coronet at Spear Pillar. From there, you play the flute, you go up the stairs, the glowing clear stairs, and you're able to face off against Arceus with a chance of capturing it. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, you have a chance to capture Arceus as well. And there's this running theory. Essentially, Arceus allows itself to be captured, allows any trainer to be worthy of capturing it. And from there, it'll eventually stay with the trainer until the trainer perishes. From there, it'll be released or leave the Pokeball and have another trainer capture it. Hence the theory why the trainer in the past maybe have gotten Arceus and eventually perished, and the future trainer in Pokemon Diamond Pearl, or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, or Platinum, however you want to see it. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we have yet Arceus coming with us. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't count because it's a gimme Pokemon. You just received Arceus. You don't catch it in some mysterious location or anything. And I say, yeah, you're not wrong. But the event is not just a gimme Pokemon. In fact, if you remember in this event in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you go to the ruins of Alph, and the Unknowns transport you to a different ruin where you essentially meet Cynthia, and Cynthia says, you have a Pokemon that's important. She is not super surprised for some odd reason that you have Arceus or anything. Now, could it be canon-wise? Maybe, maybe not. It could be non-canon, but keep this in mind. Not only are the events of Diamond and Pearl and Heart Gold and Soul Silver at the same time, but in the same universe, meaning both trainers, if we perceive this as canon-wise, have an Arceus, meaning there are multiple Arceus, 2, perhaps even more. It has you thinking that is Arceus just not really that important? Are there multiple Arceus? Is Arceus not really a PokéGod, just a common legendary Pokemon? The answer would be yes and no. What if I told you those aren't the true Arceus? Those protagonists in those games didn't capture true Arceus, but rather 2 of the 1,000 arms. Maybe you caught on, and I guess not really a surprise since there was a bit of a hint here and there, but I was surprised. Let's go back to Pokemon Legends Arceus. If you were to fulfill all of your requests, capture every single Pokemon that is requested by Arceus, you would essentially get the Azure Flute, thanks to battling against Volo. You get all the plates, you get the Azure Flute, and you go up to the Hall of Fame, eventually meeting against Arceus. From there, you battle Arceus, and once you are successful, you are able to essentially capture Arceus. But here's something that Arceus says before you essentially capture Arceus. He says this, and partially the quote. It's not the full quote, but listen here. I am glad that I chose thee to call this world. As thou walkest onward upon thy own path, upon thee, and upon this creation where thou now dwellest, I bestow my blessing, and I bestow upon thee a part of myself. I would walk this world together with thee. Show me how it appeareth in thine eyes. Now, I will say Arceus does not mention its arm in a certain quote, but if you listen, he does say, and I bestow upon thee a part of myself. One of its arms. Imagine all 1,000 of those arms, kind of like Zygarde, born together to become the true legendary. In fact, in the game, it also mentions that the true form of Arceus is essentially incomprehensible. We don't know what Arceus truly looks like. Maybe we have some kind of idea on a silhouette at the beginning of the game. But just like in real life religion, how gods are incomprehensible in terms of visual appearance and power, so is the same with Arceus, based on the game Pokemon Legends Arceus, in terms of visual and power. We don't really know how strong Arceus is and what it looks like. All we know is that that is only a part of Arceus, and perhaps one of 1,000 of it. Crazy. And it's also crazy how Giratina wanted to challenge Arceus. But yeah, that might just answer the question of if Arceus really is still the true god, and I guess the answer's right there. We don't really know how powerful Arceus is, so yeah.